Myers Counseling Group podcast. We offer mental health, substance abuse, and wellness information for the community. To find out more information and to access previous podcasts and other resources, visit us at myerscounseling.com. Today's podcast is on music. For some, music involvement in our lives may not fully be appreciated. We listen to it and enjoy it without realizing the many benefits it provides. Here to talk more about it is Terry Guynes. Mr. Guynes is a band director for Lundahl Middle School in Crystal Lake for both the jazz and gold band. Terry has been a band leader at Lundahl for 16 years. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
Before going into my questions, could you please explain your background in music?
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree from Western Illinois University and a master's degree in music education from Northern Illinois University. I've also studied things on my own. I've been a professional performer for quite a few years, actually. I've been performing since I was about 15 years old.
Right. How did you, first tell us how you personally got involved in music. What were the circumstances that got you going? Just a little bit of early background information.
Okay. Well, my father was a musician. He played clarinet and saxophone. He played with the Houston Symphony, and he also played with a lot of jazz groups in New Orleans and things like that. And I remember going to concerts and stuff as a kid and seeing Al Hurt and Pete Fountain and Louis Armstrong, all those guys that everybody knows that are all gone and no longer with us now, unfortunately. But and I actually wanted to play clarinet and saxophone like him, but then he came home with a trumpet and said, "No, you're going to play this."
Oh, okay. What got you started in the career of music?
Actually, my father and mother really supported me in that decision. They didn't push me in that direction, but they supported me in that direction because my father worked for a printing press company and just went to work every day for 38 years, and towards the end he just didn't like it, and they encouraged me to do what I enjoyed because he said it's more important to do what you enjoy because you don't want to hate your job. You don't want to wake up dreading going to work, and that's why I fell in love with music at an early age. I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was in 8th grade, so I've been lucky enough to be able to perform as well, which is nice. So.
Oh, where do you perform?
I've performed lots of places, but after I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I started playing with a couple of groups professionally. I had the opportunity to play with Maynard Ferguson for a little while, the Temptations a little bit, and really enjoyed it. But I got tired of waking up wondering what time zone I was in, so that got old. And living out of a suitcase, it's tough. And my heart was still in teaching.
What are some of the earliest ages we may see the benefits of music?
Well, the benefits of music can start even in the womb. As a fetus in the womb, my mom was still taking me to concerts and things like that, and I think that had an influence there. And there's studies that prove that kind of bonding with a child will help in its overall development. I know if you go to the Kindermusik website, they have research on studies from children that are basically 1 to 3 years, and they say that the earliest development for any child is basically 1 to 5 years. Those first 5 years are so vitally important, especially in any child's development, and the benefits start to really sink in because it relates to language. Every society on the planet has music, and that's really our first language.
Is there any information on music in grades? If a student is involved in a musical instrument or program, are they any better off academically?
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of studies out there that prove that music enhances both global and spatial temporal learning and development with the brain. It improves language and English scores. It improves mathematics. It improves social interaction with students. All of that because of the way that music forces you to think. No other subject forces you to use both the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere at the same time. The left hemisphere is the analytical side, and the one that's the side of the brain that is primarily used for math. And then the right side of the brain is the creative side. So, but music uses both at the same time. No other subject lets you do both at the same time, because when you're performing music, you're thinking about articulations and phrasing and crescendos. That's the right side of the right side of the brain. The left side of the brain is the counting, the 1E and a 2E and a, when you're thinking about how the music should be going in the melody or the rhythms that you have. So that's the left side of the brain, the analytical side. How are you doing it as well?
Excellent. What other benefits may younger students see from participating in musical programs?
Well, they're not only developing the brain and learning process, but they also start to understand how they learn. Part of their social development. They're also building their finger dexterity and fine motor skills. They're building hand-eye coordination, lots of other things. They're also breathing correctly. They start to learn how to breathe correctly, because as we get older, we forget how to breathe. That's just in addition to some of the other things that you have benefits for, that are development of the learning capabilities. And as musicians, we train ourselves to breathe right again. So some of the benefits that help with that is asthma. People with asthma and allergies, it does aid in helping that as well, which is kind of a cool benefit.
Is there any information out there that links participation in a music program and benefits in later life?
Oh, gosh. One of my best examples for this is we're all familiar with NASA, right? NASA's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, where they have developed so many things that we are so unaware of, and they don't realize that we take for granted, such as microwaves, cell phones, things like that. As I was there, my uncle actually has done some things for NASA, and one of the things that they look for is studying music, because people that have studied music, particularly for a lengthy period of time, they think outside the box and they think creatively. They don't get stuck in a rut in terms of, this is where my thinking's going, this is where they can't break off. And without being able to break off, we don't develop new technology, new things, new ways. So they actually look for music study, and that's only one company that particularly looks for that.
Now, I know you just mentioned NASA. Would there be other types of work settings where this type of music experience may help somebody?
Oh, absolutely. Any of the design industries, architecture, things like that, where you're designing or creating software, things like that, they look for specifically for music study because of that, so that they can think outside of the box, and they can think creatively. They don't get stuck, because they can think in another direction very easily and very clearly. So it benefits there. It also benefits in terms of leadership skills and speaking to groups of people and leading people in a teamwork setting, things like that.
What ages can a child start participating in a band program? Typically, what age do they start?
Well, music really should start, as I said, early on. The earlier the better. I also recommend that you start even piano lessons as early as age 5. But there's benefits to starting. Typically, kids start between 4th and 5th grade. Most instances, they start around 4th grade. Especially in the band program around here, most of them start 4th or 5th grade, actually. But there's also other areas that you can get into, like with orchestra, with McHenry. In our area, the McHenry County Youth Orchestra, they start kids on Suzuki at as early as 5 years old, using miniature instruments, which is kind of funny.
Shifting the focus from kids for now, what are your thoughts on how individuals beyond school age may benefit from music?
Well, for instance, the getting into college is a good way to the music participation in music really helps. First of all, it boosts your test scores. UCLA did a 10-year study that compared music students to the general population or the non-music student, and they consistently performed higher on SAT and ACT tests. So that's one way. Admissions counselors often look at music participation because they know that it builds leadership skills. They know that it builds time management skills. They know that it builds social interaction skills and all of the things that it takes to be successful in college. So they really look at that. I can't tell you if there's any research that proves that they're looking for music in particular. Most of them are looking for strong leaders, period. They're looking for, the class presidents. They're looking things that set you out above the general population. And music is one of those things that can boost you over the top so that you are outstanding compared to the rest of the population that are being admitted, because they only have a certain number of seats that they can fill each year.
Right. I also know in some of my research in therapy experiences that music has played a tremendous part in a lot of people's therapy and recovery, whether it be with working with the age population, with geriatrics, or there's even some research out there that talks about music and how they could integrate it in chronic pain relief as well.
Oh, and stroke therapy too.
Oh, yes.
Which is awesome.
That's a wealth of information to digest. Any additional information you can provide us?
Absolutely. There's just too much to tell you in one little tiny podcast, because there's just so much out there. Some of the stuff that I like, the websites that I like to use, I love that Kinder Music website because they put it into a good, concise way for parents to understand. Particularly, Curious Parents also has a great website too. They have some of that information. Music Educators National Conference, or MENC, the MENC website is awesome. They also have some interesting things from Science Daily, where they have the first evidence that musical training affects brain development in young children. It talks about the connecting of the left and the right hemisphere. For instance, we all know about Einstein. Einstein was, as a young child, he was told by his teachers constantly that he would not succeed. He would be, destined to be a ditch digger for the rest of his life. He's never going to amount to anything. Well, one of the ways that he got thinking better was to go improvise on his violin. And I think music improvisation is one way that we can really use both sides of the brain particularly, and then they start to connect, and there's actually a physical connection. You can see it on an MRI, and I think that's a huge improvement on knowledge in our time now that we have. The other website that I love is the ACT website, and I'll get that link for you available too, so that's there. Tim Lotzenheiser is one of the most premier educators today that really is very knowledgeable about that, and he's just got a ton of stuff. So I'll make that available to you as well.
Excellent. Now, again, you've mentioned a lot of different resources and studies for anyone who wants to access those. As Terry had mentioned, I am going to post some of those links on my website as well, so you'll be able to have some direct linkages to some of these previous mentioned websites. Any concluding statements, Terry? We again appreciate your time here.
It was my pleasure. Glad I could help out.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.